So we're back with round 4, and we were able to find the elusive 3-0 blue Crocodile players. So
Guys, we
uh,
did it.
we've
Guys, we
done it.
did it.
So we're going to see a little interesting matchup of exactly what we were talking about. Blue Crocodile versus Zoro. So can Crocodile handle the aggressive nature that Zoro has? I guess we'll have to find out. What do you guys think? We're going to put a little prediction who you think is going to win this game. But Fernando, who do you put it on?
So everybody's taught never to have a bias, but I feel like if this Croc player makes this game look easy, it'll turn the entire format on its head. So this is the most exciting game ever.
That's a very bold statement from Fernando. He's like, no bias, but if he wins, damn, that's gonna be looking crazy, my guy. No pressure, by the way, no pressure.
No pressure.
No pressure, but you'll like totally turn the format around if you win, but also no pressure.
Oh man. I just can't wait to see this matchup. Honestly, on paper, it looks unwinnable, but I don't care.
I don't know. There's a lot of really interesting defensive tools that Crocodile has at its disposal. We're gonna have to wait and see what they went ahead and chose to be those defensive tools. Like back in the day, wow, that seems a little excessive. The 5-drop Croc blocker was a way to deal with very strong weenie cards. So for 1 Dawn on block, bottom deck, a 2-cost or lower character, which Zoro has a ton of.
Actually,
So
that card might just be a stone wall. If it doesn't get dealt with, it might actually be super efficient. Block a attack quite effectively and then get rid of another card in the process. It might not be bad at all. In fact, it might actually be one of the more pivotal cards in the matchup. So
I think it's a really cool card. I don't know if he's playing it, but certainly a card to consider, as well as the fact that it is a 6K body. It doesn't have a counter, but it's the main the main point that people used to say, or the reason the card wasn't good versus red was, well, they can just jet pistol it. And I guess that is certainly a true statement, but I guess if they do not have the jet pistol, they're gonna have to find a different way to deal with that Crocodile. And if that Crocodile gets to stick 1 or 2 turns, the defense that that card can provide is exceptional.
yeah, so definitely no. Like we mentioned before, if it does not get jet pistoled, answered immediately. Even if it does, and a second one comes down, like that's also a possibility. If he's playing that card, it will be instrumental in the early portions of the game in this matchup. And okay. You think about it. You go into a regional level event. Everybody here is trying their hardest to win every single round, and you willingly go in with starter deck Croc. You know that you're going to play Zoro a number of times during the tournament. That's just a known quantity, and he still decided to use the deck, and it's 3-0. So I mean, what else can be said? He's
It's
definitely
manly.
has
It's
to be
manly.
some sort of plan for this matchup.
I like it. I like it. So let's see if our assumptions are true about Crocodile. It's certainly as aggro has become a little bit crazier. Has Blue been able to keep up the defense? I guess we'll find out. Is Impel down in this deck? I don't know. Are we going to see a buggy?
We did
Looks like
not
we're not.
see.
We did
He
not see
might
a
be
buggy.
playing. We did not see it starting out, and he mulliganed his hand earlier, so maybe he was hard mulliganing for a card like Buggy in a matchup like this. Obviously did not get there, but we'll see if he gets some sort of board presence on turn 3.
And that's kind of like the interesting part of these like lesser known decks is we're not really sure what's in the deck. Like it
Another
can really be anything. So we're gonna go
another
see.
card that could be pivotal in the matchup if he plays it. Maybe he goes Pacifista here, and he just has that engine in his deck. Oh, but
I mean, the
that's
Pacifist engine is very strong. Very strong. But you can also just summon it later. He's gonna go 7 at the Zoro player. Make sure that he takes the damage. Now, something to be said here is 7 equal to 5.
yeah. I think
What do
if
you
it just
think?
goes sideways, the Zoro player would take it.
So maybe we could have left those 2 done up, threatened some sort of events, but maybe we also just want to get hit as well. Maybe there's boas in our deck that trigger in life or any sort of triggers. Maybe Jinbei. I don't know.
And let's not dance around the fact that it is a very suboptimal opening from the Crocs side. Just not having anything on 3 with such powerful 3-dubs that are available in the blue color might not be ideal. Maybe he's sandbagging his cards on purpose just to play around cards like Vista, etc. So this could be anything, honestly.
Yeah, he might have some amount of laws in hand, but you don't want to go ahead and summon a law into them going exactly into 4 Dawn because that's 1 Dawn on Zoro, 3 Dawn for the Vista. So, but this also just gives the Zoro a little bit of excess time. So we'll go ahead and see Zoro put 1 Dawn
It's
swing.
gonna be a
We'll
Brook,
block
I
with a
think.
Mihawk, and we'll see a Brook come down. Very aggressive from the Zoro player. We're gonna go see a 5K attack from the Nami. We'll see what the Crocodile player chooses to do here. And they're going to go ahead and defend that. Going to pitch a Boa as well.
Okay.
And we'll go ahead and see another 5K. Wow, that was a very offensive turn from the Zoro player. 6-5-5.
And developing your card, and honestly, incredibly optimal opening from the Zoro, going Nami into Sunny into 3 cards on board, 3 attacks on the second turn of the game, and
I think that's one of the more backbreaking cards in Zoro, right? Like sometimes you'll run them out of resources, which it happens, and then they'll just like top deck a Curly to Dawn. They'll go Curly, add Nami, Nami, add insert card here, and then you created one card that deployed 3, and you're like, my goodness. So what's
oh,
so there are Jinbeis in this deck, and Jinbei's gonna go ahead and bottom deck. He's gonna remove the Sunny Kun, and then he's gonna bottom deck the Brook. Removing 3K attackers is really important. And then as he was talking about, he was sandbagging a couple of these laws. As Law's going to have to come down here and not get Vista'd, right? We're just going to have to pray that that
now
doesn't
the
happen.
Vista comes down in a more awkward turn because obviously the Zoro player wants to effectively use all his done, but maybe playing a 3 drop on this turn is a little harder. And the blue pair kind of found the perfect answers to the board. And even if he goes down in card advantage to block early, definitely if he has the impel down package, then that won't be as bad.
No, and I also do like the fact that he blocked here. I like the idea of blocking when you get the opportunity, especially with cards like the Trafalgar Law, because if you do get this block, you're not guaranteed to get the block later.
Exactly. And we'll see what 3 Dawn play, and no Zoro present there, so a little bit of a slower turn after the second turn of the game being so explosive. Now a little bit more of accruing card advantage from the side of the Zoro player, and honestly, the Crocodile player does need the space, so
Yeah, we do need a little bit of time, but we are already down to 3 life, which is not ideal as the Crocodile player, as we do really want to get to our, later turns of our games while also continuing to apply pressure. And he goes ahead and fully commits, goes into the Brook, Nami, Sunny, and adding a Jet Pistol to the hand.
what options does the blue Croc player have available to him?
So we'll go ahead and swing Jinbei at the Nami. Does he want to go ahead and remove a card from hand to beg for another attack, or does he want to let the Nami go through? It really depends on how he wants to go it. So he lets that go through. He says, you know
Yeah,
what, if you want to hit me, I will gladly take another card to my hand. And can the Crocodile player afford to do it? He's going to go ahead and play
Jinbei.
another Jinbei. And it's
Sunny
like
goes down,
Jinbei control. So I'll go ahead and
and
remove another Sunny. Sunny being a bigger threat than the Brook because of cards like Makino and I forget his name, Magra, I believe.
Moriah.
Yeah, and cards
And
like that, so making it so that you can make that Sunny like a 7-9K attacker for very little investment. It's kind of
these
crazy.
Jinbeis have just been fantastic, by the way. Can we talk about the fact that they deal with a card before it attacks him, giving him a pseudo sort of a blocking hand for that Sunikun that never got to do its job, and then at the same time answering the small threats like the Nami on the way back. So Jinbei just from start to finish being a fantastic card. It can also be hit in life just casually. So if a third copy is somewhere in the life, it might be instrumental later on. And then there you go, see another Trafalgar being played at the end of the turn, just dealing with the leader attack that
So
is
yeah,
probably
this
soon to
is
come.
we have seen mirrored turns. We'll go Jinbei Law, which is pretty solid. We've had 2 Dawn up to threaten what looks to be like a Love Beam. We'll go 7 at the leader, which was most certainly what he's Zoro's trying to do, get that Love Beam out of the hand, but he can also just block it here. Again, showing a lot of good restraint from the Crocodile player. We'll go ahead and see a 5 come down from the Brook. And I do expect to see a lot of 5K attacks coming from the rest of this turn. So we'll see another 5. We'll see
There's the
Zoro
Zoro.
swinging for 6. And then what do we want to go ahead and do regarding this, about this Zoro? Is the question. We'll go ahead and
Probably.
at 2, we'll go for the Love Beam.
Yeah.
It's going to go ahead and draw us. We're at, exactly 3. So we'll go ahead and cycle a little bit. We're going
Oh,
to go
wow.
ahead and we.
It's very possible that the Zoro player actually, after seeing the first Jinbei, went deliberately for Nami into Sunikun, sandbagging the Zoros in his hand just so that after the Jinbeis were played, now he gets to play 2 Zoros on curve, and there's no more Jinbeis to effectively deal with them. So it might have been a deliberate choice, and it's paying off here.
Yeah, so solid choice from the Zoro player here. And either way, the Jinbeis are going to have to find a way to deal with the board. No Dawn up. He's showing that he has 5 cards in hand. And this is kind of like the issues that we were finding with Zoro, right? Like, even though they, might have very weak attackers on the board and they can't really opt to defend them, the fact that you're forced to kind of deal with their board creates the deck to become like a flamingo. style deck like you were talking about, where we have to deal with the board that lets them get to the late game, and they just go Whitebeard.
Yeah, because let's say best case scenario, even if the Crocodile player ends up dealing with the entire Zoro like field on this turn, just Whitebeard next turn invalidates basically everything that's happened so far.
Mm-hmm. So this is going to be one of the harder turns to navigate for the Crocodile player. I'm not sure if the Crocodile player opted to go first or if he was forced to go first from the Zoro player. But they're now currently at 9 Dawn, so we do have an available Mihawk flip. But does that really answer the board?
It depends on what attacks the Zoro player lets go through and not. Let's just say if one attacks, how much Jinbei is 2K or 3K?
Jinbei is unfortunately a 2K.
Oh, so it won't even be able to threaten the Brook, which is a little awkward.
Okay, and by investing some Dawn, we're now at 7 active Dawn, so we're not going to go ahead and see potential Mihawk this turn.
Yeah, so the Crocodile player has determined that even if he has a Mihawk, it's probably
just not
going
good
to win
enough.
this game. Yeah.
Correct. So we'll go ahead and swing 7. Go ahead 7 into the Zoro. Zoro will go. Okay, which could mean a lot of things, right? Maybe he doesn't want to go ahead and remove 2 cards from hand, or maybe he just doesn't have 2Ks in hand. Maybe he has an assortment of Zoros, Luffy, and Whitebeard. We know one of the cards in hand is a jet pistol, so he has 4 other cards available.
This deliberate choice to let the Zoro die here leads me to believe that he has either heavier cards in play or has just chosen to let him die in favor of keeping hand advantage because he has some sort of a large tempo play that he's going to do in the next turn. I mean, could it also be a Shanks available? You never really know. So.
Oh boy, Shanks would be kind of scary too. Like I don't know, any big drop on the following turn is going to be very difficult for the Crocodile to do.
It leads me to believe that any amount of combo power that he would have this turn would have been used to save that Zoro. So it has to be some haymaker play.
Yeah, and I do see a Virgo in the Crocodile player's hand, which is again a very interesting card. One of our, I guess, options to deal with bigger cards, but do we have the opportunity to deploy it this turn?
And from what we've seen so far, no Impel down cards at his disposal. So
I think we opted for more of a Warlords package, as we've seen Boa, Mihawk. I'm assuming we saw the Law, so I'm assuming there's a Gecko Moriah and things like that.
Yeah, because something like a Luffy bounce on this field wouldn't be too terrible, but if he didn't opt for these, I just want him to have some sort of proactive play to deal with that Zoro, but there's just so few in the blue colors.
Yeah, he also can just commit a ton of Dawn here, but then like if we're doing that, we're not really flipping the cards that we want to flip. And by flip, I mean using the Dawn -4 Crocodile effect, which is Dawn -4, return a card of cost 5 or lower to your opponent's hand. If we remove the Zoro, then what are we bouncing to hand? A Brook or a Nami? And I don't think that's quite efficient. Even bouncing a Zoro doesn't sound too efficient at this point in time.
So maybe checking him a little bit, seeing the context of his hand, just putting 1 Dawn, matching the Brook 3-on-3 with one of the Jinbeis might be the best step forward.
We'll go see a tap of 4 that's going to go ahead and play a Gecko Moriah, as I suspected we are heavy on the Warlord package. It's going to go ahead and grab us a Law Blocker. We're going to go ahead and play a Law Blocker. We still have 2 Dawn up for another Love Mellow, and I think that's what he's going to go ahead and choose to end on. Big tough, like very, very tough. If we do see, now that the Zoro player is at 10 Dawn, if we do see that Whitebeard, I don't really know how the Crocodile comes back from that scenario. And then seeing that he just quickly just yeets his whole Dawn, that is 9. This is going to be a Whitebeard, and there she blows. So making our leader, making our leader a 7, putting 1 Dawn, making it an 8. That's going to go ahead and make our Zoro a 6, and now swing for 8, which is going to trigger a Law Block. Now this Law Block would go ahead and get blocked anyways, or it would get KO'd by the Whitebeard, so he might as well take the block while he can.
Looking a little tough here. And like we said before, I mean, we knew it. They knew it. The chat knew it. Everybody knew it. It was just a 9-drop coming down this turn. That card is just so crazy.
And this is a thing. This is what Zoro can do again. Like you have full tempo of the game, and then you're just allowed to freely play these big bombs from hand. Is very, very dangerous. We'll go see a Gecko Moriah try to check the Zoro. Will it succeed though?
No, it's a little interesting because now going sideways as a Zoro kind of invalidates the Whitebeard plus 2k effect on the leader. So maybe just let Zoro die and allow yourself the ability to defend with higher numbers.
Do we let the Zoro go out of shame? Nah, just kidding. So we'll go ahead and pitch the Otama. Then he's going to go 6 at the Zoro, which is an interesting number. Noting that his opponent has a pistol in hand, 4 cards that we're unaware of, and he hasn't been really comboing out of anything. It looks like the rest of Zoro's hand is just going to be like immaculately powerful. Like I expect to see another Whitebeard next turn.
And this would be
And we'll see a Flamingo. Now, Flamingo not being, again, too optimal. It's going to go ahead and bounce back a 2k counter. But we have to start creating some sort of tempo cards. And Flamingo having a 7-cost body is going to have to do something for us.
So let's just say if we leave Love Love Mellow up for the entirety of the rest of the game, okay. Well,
all right. So we keep another Love Love Mellow. And we just see, like I said, it's going to be, oh my, not like this.
It's happening. Oh no.
No. Bro, it's
Oh,
going to
no.
be Whitebeard, Whitebeard, Whitebeard. I feel it.
Oh man. Well, you already know how this goes.
I have felt well how this goes, and it does not feel good. So we see a secondary Whitebeard coming down, attaching a Dawn into the Zoro, making Zoro an 8k attack. This is a imperfect range for a Love Love Mellow, which I mean personally I would take here if I could, but we're definitely gonna have to eat the next damage. We really can't handle that one.
And
10k
without
is
without the second
big.
Whitebeard, it was looking doable. You block out of the next. I mean, you take one of the next 2 attacks from the Whitebeard. You block out of the leader attack with the Love Mellow. And then you go into your turn with 1 life, probably the ability to play a couple of blockers on the way back. The Zoro player only has 4 or 5 cards in hand at max. Just draw a few of those out, or give him a few life damage, and then try to all in on the following turn. But with the leader at 7 for 2 times in a row, I just struggled to see where we're going from here.
It's basically like you've turned your leader into a pseudo Eustace Captain Kid, which is something that Blue has struggled with historically, right? Your leader is now a 7k, not an 8k, but if 8k was hard, 7k is also pretty darn difficult to deal damage with, especially with 5 cards in hand and 3 life. Tough.
Yeah, and let's just talk about the 9-drop sweet spot. A lot of cards in the blue deck can deal with 7 or less from all different angles, but just 9s, 10s, and 8s are all pretty much immune to effects from the blue side. So
I mean, they have to be, right? If not, it'd be just a little too easy, no? So we'll go back to the blue player side. Zoro is currently at 7k attack power, 5 cards in hand. Tough. I do like the fact that the Crocodile player was playing the Don Quixote blocker. Being that the Don Quixote blocker is a 4k powered blocker, it's not immediately removed by Edward Newgate. But if it in combination comes down with an Otama, we're in for a bad time.
But definitely one of the avenues to come back into this is just trying to mitigate the Newgate attacks as much as possible, while also attacking with your own 7k.
This reminds me of a scenario very similar to the limited battles. So this is actually it's very similar to the limited battles. So he has summoned a 9-drop, and the 9-drop is a 10k body. You know who is a 9-drop 10k body that got played very often in the limited battles? Kaido. So oftentimes with a Flamingo on board and a Kaido that's sideways, what people would do in the limited battle series is that they would go ahead and dump like 7 cards onto the
Oh, he's doing it.
Flamingo, and he swings at the Kaido, and then that would clear the Kaido more often than not. And oh my
Oh,
god,
that was a next level of prediction. Nice, good job.
this guy is a pro, dude. And then we're gonna see a Don Quixote blocker to finish off the turn.
Wait, that would be a perfect turn because it's
That is
difficult to
10
get rid
Dawn.
of. Perfect at checking the 9
Sheesh.
Newgate. And now the Newgate is kind of forced to swing into that 4K unless, like you said before, some sort of Otama or something like that comes down. And if that block actually happens, we can just 14 at the Newgate again. And this board doesn't look as bad as before.
It
By a
doesn't look as
mile.
bad as it used to, but this is it's just something that I've unfortunately had to experience more a lot in the past, in a different way. So like if you're not attacking the leader there, because like what is the purpose of attacking the leader there? It's really nothing that we're gonna do. We've noticed that his hand is very low counter, and he's playing these big drops. So our best way of dealing with or getting out of this scenario is by dealing with those cards once they're forced to go sideways. So very solid from Brian here, noticing that this was a scenario that I've seen before, and he's being able to easily navigate.
Let's
So he's going to
see
go ahead
the
and attach
Zoro
1
player.
Dawn to the Zoro.
I mean, we want to see how the Zoro player reacts to this because maybe he was anticipating untapping with two new gates that turn.
I mean, I would
So
anticipate to untap with 2 new gates.
and let it die relatively easily. So I want to say that the red player does not have a lot of combo power in his hand currently. So if this second new gate becomes under duress, I think it'll just die as well.
All right, very solid. So we're gonna go ahead and see how they go ahead and choose to do this turn. It looks like we have lost our blocker. This was the jet pistol that we were foretold. Let's see what he chooses to do with the rest of his turn, though. He has, I mean, he can definitely deal some damage here, put Flamingo all the way down to 0, or he can choose to deal with the 7-drop Flamingo. If he deals with the 7-drop Flamingo, it's going to be very difficult for the blue player to deal with the new gate. So there's something to be said about that as well.
You can tell that the red player, up until now, it's felt like easy cruising. I mean, all of his plays have been quite deliberate, quite fast, but now in this turn has been a little more difficult. He's in the tank. You know, that attack on the new gate, the previous turn, kind of made him think a little about his position in the game. So
Okay, so he's gonna go ahead and attach 2 Dawn here, and I'm assuming the 2 Dawn has made it so he's gonna go 7 at the Flamingo, which I would guard that because that's just an easy guard. If he goes ahead and swings it with the new gate, well, sure, you've got it. Certainly gonna attach 2 more Dawn to the new gate to go ahead and remove a Jinbei as a bonus. Sure.
yeah, the Jinbei is a little unimportant in this scenario, but just getting rid of them, just in the case that they become attackers later on, might as
Yeah.
well if you're going to
Yeah, maybe
try
if
and deal with
you
Don Flamingo.
Yeah, maybe if you didn't have anything to do with those 2 Dawn, like you're kind of okay with just doing that, you can go ahead and slam down the Brook that we were aware of, so that we can no longer know any single card in uh the Zoro
Red
player's
player's hand, yeah.
hand. Yeah, so we're now all the cards that we were aware of are gone. But
Oh, and this attack, he might actually have an unfortunate scenario where he takes F5, and that would be devastating in this game state. He has to guard this no matter what.
yeah, taking a 5 here is a little too scary, right? Because then a number of rushers is really going to seal the deal. Because our next turn is going to be quite difficult. There's 4 cards in the Zoro player's hand. It's going to be tough. Very, very tough. On the bright side, if he does take this and hits a trigger card in terms of Jinbei or Boa, ooh, and we lose the
Oh, and there's a passive
Centamaru.
vista we were talking about before. No, so yeah,
Yeah,
so it does feel like it was just a little bit unfortunate from the side of the Croc player. His early game was just detrimental to him. None of the cards that he wanted to see actually showed up. He actually passed 1 and 3, so it's just a little awkward from that perspective. But
so he's going to go ahead and swing at the Nami here for 2, which I do like this attack. The fact that the red player is even considering defending this Nami is quite interesting. Blocking it with a
yeah,
Megara,
it is.
and it lives. There's only 2 cards left in the Crocodile's hand. What does he really want to do with them, though?
Do we try to kill Newgate a second time?
There is something to be said about that. If he couldn't deal with 14 before, I don't think he can deal with 14 now. But that is a 9 Dawn investment. That's
Maybe
like
we just
playing
put
a
12 on
Mihawk.
it. Maybe 12 and play a blocker.
But let's say 12 doesn't go through. Do we immediately lose the game?
At this point, it's such a desperate situation that maybe it's just something he has to do. But okay, so there's the Mihawk that he didn't play earlier. Comes down now, just because he has to. Maybe he doesn't have any other proactive plays, and he identifies that he has to do something in order to deal with this Newgate. So
Okay, I don't dislike this turn, but any sort of rusher here might just spell the end of the game. With 1 card left in hand, 1 Dawn up, that can be at best a Desert Spada. So if we just go 7 at him, he's going to have to take Newgate, he's going to have to take, and then if we have a rusher like a Zoro and we can just put as much Dawn as possible on it, it's just probably going to spell the end of the game.
yeah. No, most certainly a rusher here ends the game. Let's just see if the Red Zoro player. I mean, he's been navigating this game expertly the entire time. So if he goes 7 here, that would be like you mentioned, the appropriate number, just because it's unguardable.
Yeah, it's very respectable if he goes for 7. 6 is kind of disrespectful in my opinion. But he's considering what
Certainly.
he wants to do with it. And again, one of the more pivotal turns in the game. Let's see how he wants to navigate it. As he's going to go ahead and if he can't finish the game, he's going to make his opponent untap with 4 cards in hand. And is he able to deal with those 4 cards? That's the real question.
And here we. That's funny.
And that's just another Whitebeard. God bless.
They didn't expect that one, did you?
Got me again. So he goes 8 at the leader. And eight's a really good number because that is a forced take. And if he just doesn't attack with the new gate, he would be in a really solid spot as well. But he chooses to attack, putting the Crocodile player at 0. Not great. Not great for
Yeah,
our
that
Croc
was
boy.
just the 3 Newgate show. I mean,
God. Well, it was a lot of controlling the early game and then just going triple Edward Newgate is excessive. But it's kind of what the deck does, and that's really just showcases just how powerful that 9 drop is.
and where do you draw the line between an aggro deck or just a straight up like also matching the control decks? Because that's what Zoro does so well. That's why so many people entered the tournament with it today. 165 players. It's because it can do both. It just has such a crazy early game that you can just die to in certain scenarios. And if at any point they start losing control of the board, guess what? We just have late game also.
So we're gonna go 11. What I believe is gonna be the at the Newgate, and then that number is just a little again back to the disrespectful numbers. A little too disrespectful. We're gonna go ahead and see a boa come down, and then we'll go ahead and see a flamingo as well, and then I mean I guess he just didn't want to tap out. He wanted to keep one done up as
But
if he does have the desert spada, he didn't want it to be a useless card. And then if he was gonna tap out, I believe he should have just played one more Dawn onto the Mihawk,
if you
right?
think about it from a card advantage perspective, he could have saved a blocker and just well, that's trivial at this point. But
Oh boy. And wow. So yeah, his hand was just haymakers as we were talking about. It was just cards that didn't have any sort of counter power and really just it was just a little too much. Definitely having the triple Newgate, triple pistol. Yeah,
and I feel
yeesh.
like there was, even though it was a triple Newgate show, there was a lot of nuance that went into that game. Once you attack 7 into 5 on the turn that he had double Zoros and he just lets one go through, you already know that he has haymakers in his hand. That's just the only plausible reason he wouldn't save the Zoros in that case. And also, during the end of the game, just in terms of card advantage, instead of playing a blocker, maybe dumping a little more Dawn into the Mihawk attack, and then if you end up killing the Newgate, is the same thing as blocking the Newgate on the way back. So that could have created a little bit of space, but game is too far gone when you get Newgated 3 times anyway. So it's
Yeah,
okay.
no, this is one of those statements that we said before. This game would be like when you're in locals and you win off of that, you're just like, damn, that's just good deck building, my guy. That's just good deck building right there. What can I say? I controlled the entire early game and then I just pistoled you away while playing 3 Whitebeards. Feels horrendous when that happens to you, let me tell you.
We did
Doesn't.
from the beginning expect that the Zoro player was gonna achieve a victory here, but I do want to mention that the Crocodile, like deck in general, and the player was piling it pretty well. It could have been a lot better. He could have not skipped his turn 1 and 3. Could have actually played, some searching card or just a generic 1 drop on turn 1. Could have played the Pacifista to get that engine rolling on turn 3, and then actually had a lot more of a competitive game. But unfortunately, it's just not the one we saw there. So
Yeah, no, honestly, it was just a little too much, and that's kind of the scenarios that I'm talking about. The blue player didn't have the optimal start that they needed in order to really deal with the aggression that I was gonna say Whitebeard that Zoro was about to bring to the table, and without applying enough pressure, if a Zoro player is just able to go Whitebeard, 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 yeah, it doesn't matter how much of a control deck you are, you cannot control 3 Newgates on the board. They're just gonna wake you out of the game, and that's what we just saw. I mean,
let's do talk about the attack that you sort of used your prior knowledge of limited battles in order to predict a really crazy attack on the Newgate for 14. I found that really interesting because at the end of the day, once a card is tapped and has already done its job, it's just a pile of stats, right? So if you deal with a 10k Kaido in a specific way, you also deal with a 10k Newgate in a specific way, and I
No,
found
no,
that really
it was literally it was very interesting to see that Brian was able to note that because that's something that I have seen in the past, and it was beautiful to see it come up again. That's just a nuance from a skilled Crocodile player that it just shows that he's been playing the deck for a
since the
really
beginning.
long time. So I really enjoyed him just going ahead and 14ing the Edward Newgate, and you noticed that the Zoro player was like, "Excuse me."
Yeah, that was the first time that he had to actually put effort into just thinking through his plays after the Newgate deck. Because I feel like he kind of noticed, oh, if I let this second Newgate get KO'd, the game might actually spiral out of control. So I did like him kind of, reassessing the situation, taking a little bit more time, the Zoro player, and then just analyzing oh, here's the third one. That's fine, cool.
Yeah, I think by swinging at the Newgate for 14, he like put the fear into Zoro that it was like you can lose this game if you mess up, by the way. Like don't think I'm just gonna hand it to you by just dropping a Whitebeard on me. So I thought it was very cool. Unfortunately, yeah, he drew all three of the Whitebeards. It happens sometimes, like that card is an unsearchable god card that just gets slammed. Now imagine that card was 3 Shanks. Sure, that'd be very strong, but it doesn't look as strong as that. Certainly not.
No, and
But
definitely there, just the Shanks versus the Edward Newgate. A lot of the reason why the blue player couldn't, at least match the sort of the tempo of the game was because if he was getting shanked down, he would just take a damage and then attack a bunch of times for 5 on the way back, and it would be reasonable to mitigate, a sort of a racing situation there. But Azoro being 7K, almost a pseudo captain kid, while also developing the field is just impossible.